Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 741 in the chapter The Evolutionary Process, Ascent and Integration, beginning with the first sentence, the transition to the mind and sense.
So, as we do every time, we will read the summary of the previous paragraph so that we have the continuity. So, everybody is talking about he has told us that there is an evolution. But what exactly is evolution and how does it proceed? So, in this chapter, he is giving us the mechanism, the details of how things come out. So, he has told us that matter is the starting point of the evolution, and matter seems to be without any consciousness. There is power in it, but it is sleeping. So, that consciousness is there, inherent already in it. In fact, his theory is the involution and the evolution. The involution is all the higher planes, right up to the supermind and even beyond, are all condensed and compressed, if you want, into the inconscient. Just like the tree is involved in the seed, exactly the same way. And since it is there, and these are divine values, so they have to keep coming out, they have to express themselves. So from matter comes out life, from life comes out matter, and from life will come out mind, and from mind will come out supermind. But the thing is that these values that are coming out are not unconnected, they are all connected with each other. And so this connection is what he calls the integration. When life is coming into, it expresses itself through matter. When mind is coming into life and matter, it is expressing itself but in forms of living matter. So exactly in the same way, when you go on, his forecast is that even the supramental race will have a body which will be material, but that material itself will be transformed by the supramental principle.
Will it be subtilized material?
That is very difficult to say, but it will be visible. It should be visible, otherwise it's not material. It will be material, and it may be subtle. If you think that a form which can metamorphose itself and change itself is subtle, then you are welcome to the world. But even today in the world, there are forms which change their, for instance, the chameleon. Under certain circumstances, it changes its color. And look at the octopus. That also can change its form.
And color.
And color. So, it already that is possible. So, if a material which is supramentalized can change its color, its shape, and it can go anywhere it wants without locomotion, the normal means, then it is subtle and divine. So it depends on what you mean by subtle. But it will be subject to sight, hearing, smell and all these things. It will be open to it. Otherwise it won't be material. It has to be a supramentalized matter. That's what he's saying. So I read the summary of the last one. Yeah. In the same way, the secret inherent force with increasing intensity reaches a breaking point and mentality is born. So he is saying here that since life is there already in matter, it is slowly fermenting, if you want, and preparing to express itself. It takes a long time, but the moment it has reached a certain point where it can break into life, it does that. So there is a development within, just like the egg, and you don't see any change in the egg, but inside it's going on and the chicken is being formed. When it's ready, it cracks and comes out. So this is what he's saying happens in all the stages. Life is preparing itself for emergence in matter, And when it is almost ready, it has a leap. He has used the word saltus. It leaps. So, exactly in the same way again, in the animal, the mind is being prepared. They have a rudimentary mind, but intellectual mind the animals don't have. So, that intellectual mind is being prepared, and when it is ready, it takes the next jump and comes into man. Similarly, the spiritual consciousness is there in man, and it is preparing itself slowly through many lives. And when it has come to a certain stage where the leap can be taken into a yogic life, it does it. So that's what he's saying. So, in the same way, the secret inherent force with increasing intensity reaches a breaking point and mentality is born. The animal can do things which the plant cannot. I have to put on my...
Can we not say this of the human body of a woman?
Same.
Same.
That's the details.
Yes.
The supramental body will not be subject to gender.
No, that's true.
There will be no gender.
No, I just meant the form. You don't see what's happening inside.
Yeah.
Except now they can see.
Yeah. So, but it will not be subject to danger.
Yes.
The animal can do things which the plant cannot. Okay? So, animal, for instance, Srivendra says things which we have to give examples to ourselves to understand what he's saying. The animal can select its food. It can reject or accept. It can even run after food it wants. But the plant can't do that. Its food is limited. It knows exactly what it is, water and light it needs. And it does that in a very mechanical way. It is conscious, but mechanical consciousness. Mechanically it seeks water.
But the plant can be fed nutrients.
That is, man is coming into the picture.
Yes, exactly.
And that is exactly what he says, that the higher you go, the higher utilizes the lower.
Yes.
He says, life utilizes matter for its own good. The animal eats, it is utilizing matter. Similarly, when man comes into the picture, man utilizes animals for himself. He eats them, he trains them, he makes them beasts of burden. So man is utilizing animals, he is also utilizing matter for his own good. For instance, what the animal can't do, it looks at wind and accepts it. But man says no, he looks at wind and says, I'll be able to use it. I can generate electricity out of it. Okay? Then he looks at the river flowing. The animal can't do anything but drink water. But man says, I'll extract this energy. So he builds a dam. So man is utilizing the lower for his own good. Okay? Then later on he will tell us very interesting, since the subject has come up, I'm telling you, not only he utilizes the lower physical external elements, but he also utilizes his non-physical psychological elements. He looks at himself and says, oh, there is hatred in me, there is selfishness in me, I'll control it. So not only does man, the animal can't do that, man can do that. So that's what he will tell us in the next paragraph or two. It's very interesting, his discussion. Okay, so the animal is aware of its existence, its own and that of others. The plant is not conscious of its existence. Its activities are more numerous, mental, vital, physical. It develops senses. Who? The animal. It develops senses. Sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. It has instincts, which are nature's secret automatic guidance. But it is also memory, willings, emotions, feelings. Now, Srivendra is mentioning this, but modern research has found that even plants also have memory. If you hurt a plant, and the next time your presence is near the plant, it has reactions of fear and disturbance. So that also is there. It's hidden inside. The animal has cunning, intelligence, planning. It adapts to new circumstances. The animal is nature's laboratory in which it experiments and prepares human intelligence. Now, this is very interesting. The animal has cunning, intelligence. Okay, so we can give examples to ourselves and we'll see how it works out. Okay, so for instance, a bird stork, for instance, a stork with long legs, it stands in water and it has to catch fish. So how to catch fish? It takes a twig or a leaf and throws it on the water surface. There are ripples, and the fish thinks that it is an insect, so it comes up. As soon as it comes up, so this is cunning.
Also, the pack of animals
Yes,
can gather
they
together.
come from two sides.
Yes,
The animals, the hyenas do that.
yes.
The
Wolves-
lions do
wolves.
that. Wolves also do that. So there is cunning and planning, which is not there in the plant. So this cunning and planning goes to a certain extent. For instance, the animal also uses instruments, but that which exists in nature already. That's the difference between man and animal. The animal, the chimpanzee, takes a long stick and pokes it into an ant hole. And when it pulls it out, there are all ants on it. It eats them one by one. So it is using that stalk, long stalk, as an instrument. But it exists in nature already. The monkey takes a stone and breaks a nut. He is using the stone as an instrument. But the animal can't invent instruments. Man can invent instruments. So it's a refinement of the capacity which is already there in the animal, he refines it. That's what they will tell us later on. I'm just telling you from before only. Okay, so it has also memory, willings, emotions, feelings. The animal has cunning, intelligence, planning. It adapts to new circumstances. This adaptation, even plants adapt to new circumstances. In the mangroves, the plants adjust themselves to salt water. Then in the deserts, there is no water, but the plant adjusts itself to less water. So there is adaptation even in the plant world. In the animal world, even more. In the tropics, okay, they don't have much fur, because that will give a dog and a cat has just enough fur. But when you go to the North Pole, South Pole, the polar bears, they develop a thick fur which also changes color. The colder the climate, the more white it becomes so that it can retain the heat. So there is adaptation. These are all nature's tricks. This is what Swami is describing in this whole thing. So, we go to the next para now. The transition from the mind and sense that appear in the animal being, that which we call conscious life, is operated in the same way. The force of being is so much intensified, rises to such a height as to admit and develop a new principle of existence. Apparently, new at least in the world of matter, mentality. So exactly in the same way, in the animal, mentality is there to a certain extent, planning is there, cunning is there, but it refines itself and becomes capable of intellectual thought, which the animal can't do. So that's what Swami is saying. It goes on developing in the animal, and then it takes a leap into a higher form of mind. Okay, so apparently new. Animal being is mentally aware of existence, its own and others. Now you'll see a difference between plants also. Plants are not aware of other existence. It's vaguely aware only of its own existence, but not other existence. If you go and tear a branch, it doesn't react. Some forms do, but not. It is not aware of the external existence. That's what Swami is pointing. Animal is mentally aware of existence. See, Swami is making a statement. Animal being is mentally aware of existence. It seems to be a very ordinary statement, but when you take the opposite, you understand what he is saying. In other words, animal being is mentally aware of existence, it can react to the environment. It can either fight back or it can accept. Okay? So that's what it means by animal being is mentally aware of existence. Its own and others, puts forth a higher and subtler grade of activities, receives a wider range of contacts, wider than what? Wider than the plant. Mental, vital, physical, from forms other than its own, takes up the physical and vital existence and turns all it can get from them into sense values and vital mind values. Everything it sees in terms of sense mind and vital mind, whatever is useful to it. It sees everything in terms of food or what is going to help it. It senses body, it senses life, but it senses also mind to a certain extent. Mind also is available to a certain extent in the animal. For it has not only blind nervous reactions, but conscious sensations, memories, impulses, volitions, emotions, mental associations, the stuff of feeling and thought and will. Okay? So it's got memories. If you hurt an animal, it will remember. And the next time it sees you, it will start barking at you. It has got memory. A crow knows exactly where it has kept food. And next day it will go and get it. So memory is there. Impulse, hunger, thirst. It has got impulse, it will follow it. Volitions, it's also got a certain amount of will in itself. Okay. So, emotions, mental associations, the stuff of feeling and thought and will. It has even a practical intelligence founded on memory, association, stimulating need, observation, a power of device. Now, this what Srimla is saying is exactly what man uses to tame the animals. Okay? For instance, you with the carrot and stick policy, you can train animals. So they remember that this is useful to me. So it obeys. So this is how you train animals by carrot, because they have a memory and an association. This means this, this means this. It's interesting what Srimla is saying here. The experiments were made by a Russian scientist, Pavlov. Okay, so
with the dog.
Yeah, with the dog and the food.
Yes.
Whenever he used to give it the food, he used to ring a bell. So the dog started associating, so this is the word association, the food with the bell. So then he experimented without the food ringing the bell. The dog started saliva started coming out. So the association. See how interesting. If you understand and give examples to yourself, it becomes so interesting what Srimla is saying. Okay, so association, stimulating need. Even that bell is stimulating its need. Okay, so observation, power of device. It is capable of cunning, strategy, planning. It can even plan. Now, that's interesting. Cunning, strategy, planning. I'll give you an example. It's very interesting. An animal is put into a pen. Okay, it's a square. It normally can't escape. The wall is too steep, it can't escape. But the animal thinks out in its own vital mind way, that if I go to the corner, I can take support of both sides and it can climb up. There are videos that show that. The big pen and the animal is escaping even then. And when they put a CCTV, they found that it is utilizing the corner and climbing up. So see, cunning, strategy, planning. The animal can do that. Okay, so we have seen even dogs and cats opening the door latch. So all these can do these things. Okay, so it can invent, adapt to some extent its inventions, meet in this or that detail the demand of a new circumstance. Okay. It can meet the demand of a new circumstance. Okay, so, but invent, how can an animal invent a situation? It's interesting. We'll have to think of an example for that. Okay. So, but the other one, the demand of new circumstance, it can adapt itself to it. We have the example of dolphins, which can balance a ball on its nose. It can take a human being standing on its back and goes in the water. These are the shows that they have. So these are all things which the animal is adapting itself to new circumstances.
Yes.
Okay. All is not in it a half-conscious instinct. The animal prepares human intelligence. So there is another interesting thing also which I just now thought of. A shark, usually when it's hungry, it attacks a human being. But there are very interesting videos nowadays showing that when a shark is caught in a net and it is a bothersome thing and the human being approaches, it does nothing. It just goes up to and snuggles up to it. So the human being sees that, cuts the net, and next day it is showing its gratitude by coming again and playing with the human being.
I saw something about a crow that it couldn't get the food because it was too low in the container. And it went and found a stick and figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
That's a crow.
Yeah. The experiment is it's interesting. We said just now that the animal doesn't have intellectual capacity. But it has got logic up to 2 steps or 3 steps. And not more than that. If say logic with 7, 8 steps, the animal can't do it. So there are videos, as you said about crow. So there is a food which is kept in a container, and that container you can press a lever and then it opens and it can get the food. But the lever with its own beak it can't do. But there is a stone by the side, a heavy stone. So the crow has got the capacity to think that I will use that stone, put in that lever and it will open up. So 2 steps of logic it can do. But more than that, it becomes intellect. So it can't do that. Very interesting what Srimad is pointing out. Okay. So all is not in it a half-conscious instinct. The animal prepares human intelligence. The moment it is ready, it becomes intellectual. I read the summary.
That saltus is an interesting word.
Huh?
Saltus.
Yes.
A leap.
A jump. Yeah, that's
Jump,
right.
yeah.
You have the word in French also, saut. It means a jump. Maybe it's a Latin base, probably, saltus. Anyway, so I'm reading the summary for the next 2 paragraphs. Okay, so actually, in the atom and the electron, life, mind, and supermind are present and active, though invisible, latent, subconscious. How is Sridhar saying this? Because of yogic sight. We can't say that, but he is actually seeing it. So he can say that. The spirit is present everywhere, in every material form. In each object, there is the physical form and an inner secret consciousness governing it. But this consciousness has reduced itself and limited itself to such a minimal point as to be almost non-existent. The outer form has swallowed the secret consciousness and imprisoned it. There is a consciousness in the stone, but it's not visible because the force has imprisoned it. If you want to put it in philosophical terms, Prakriti has put Purusha under its foot and is dominating. Purusha is consciousness, Prakriti is force. So in matter there is force, but no consciousness. Consciousness is there, but under the control of force. Force is there, but not. When you go to the self, it's the other way around. Consciousness is there, and consciousness is not allowing force to express itself. That's why you have immutability. No movement at all, total silence in the mind. So their consciousness is full, and force is it is there, but not allowed to act. When you go to the 3rd level, both are there, consciousness and force, both. Okay, so in each object, there is a physical form and an inner secret consciousness governing it. But this consciousness has reduced itself and limited itself to such a minimal point as to be almost non-existent. The outer form has swallowed the secret consciousness and imprisoned it. This consciousness is there, but in a deep sleep. As the Upanishad puts it, it is the universal inhabitant who is ever awake in the sleeper. The universal inhabitant is conscious, but it is there in the sleeper. The sleeper is a stone. That's the Upanishad. Then, it is, unlike the human somnambulist, never awakened, ever ready to wake up. Now that's very interesting what he's saying. In the human being, a human somnambulist can wake up and then again sleep. So he can do both. But the consciousness in matter can never wake up unless it does it fundamentally through life. It is always sleeping, going to sleep. It doesn't have the choice of waking up. Every now and then. It wakes up once, it creates life. That's what Swami is pointing out. Okay? It's unlike the human somnambulist, never awakened, ever ready to wake up. But in the plant, the first awakening occurs. Life appears, but life without an awakened consciousness. Consciousness is ever not awakened. How interestingly is it? The sleeping consciousness has reached a point of pressure which forces it out to emerge from permanent sleep. So now it is not permanent sleep anymore, it is somnambulist. Half sleep, half conscious. It starts to interact with the environment, communicates dumbly with other similar forms. Plants communicate with other forms and humans too. Mother's experience, if you remember. Plants can communicate with other human forms. Okay? So mother was going in the garden and there are vegetables which are saying, don't take me, I am not ready yet. And some others, they say, I am ready, you can take me. Okay? So it's so interesting.
They actually wanted mother to take them.
Yes. And there's also another very interesting incident which she says in the agenda. In a vase there were many roses. And she was looking at one rose and appreciating it. But the other one, she says, felt jealous. But these are human terms. We are putting anthropomorphic values. But it turned around and stung mother's hand. And mother said, wow, this is something. So the point is that there is interaction with other than itself. It's interacting with animals, it is interacting with... When a plant doesn't want to be eaten by animals, it develops poison. So that also is interaction with the environment. And when it wants to create circumstances where it will help the plant, okay, it makes a fruit. A very juicy fruit which the animal eats and goes and the seed is thrown somewhere else and the plant benefits. So it's interacting with the environment, the plants. How interesting. We know all these things, but not connecting like this in say those evolutionary theory. Okay, so dumbly with other similar plants. That matter can never do. Matter can never interact with other forms. Matter does not, but plants can, animals can. Okay? There is a power of reception and response life values have manifested in the plant. So, now we can go to the next para. But when we come to man, okay, I read the para. He has dealt with matter and life and animal. He has dealt with matter, plant and animal. Now he is coming to man. But when we come to man, we see the whole thing becoming conscious, fully conscious. Plant, 1/4 consciousness. Animal, half consciousness. Man, maybe you can say 3/4 consciousness.
Yeah.
Not fully conscious.
I wouldn't say fully.
Not fully. Okay, so, but something is saying, compared to the animal, it is consciousness. Okay, so, the world which he epitomizes. Now that's very interesting, he has said just like that. But the world man is epitomizing. In other words, man is the universe in a condensed form. The epitome is the summary. He has summarized the universe into himself. So he is the microcosm, and the universe is the macrocosm. Man can enlarge himself and become of a universal consciousness. So this sentence means that the world which he epitomizes begins in him to reveal to itself its own nature. He can look into himself and see what the animal can't see. A man has a capacity to look into himself. The animal has capacity only to look outside itself. Okay? So very interesting what he's saying. The begins in him. The world is beginning to reveal to itself its own nature. It's a very interesting way of he's putting it. Man awakes. But who is man? Part of nature. So nature is making him look into itself. So it is nature which is forcing man to look into himself. It's nature which is doing it. So, the higher animal is not the somnambulist. Okay? At the very lowest animal forms, still mainly or almost are. At the very lowest animal forms, still mainly or almost are somnambulists. But it is only a limited waking mind, capable of just what is necessary for its vital existence. In man, the conscious mentality enlarges its wakefulness and, though not at first fully self-conscious, there you are, though still conscious only on the surface, can open more and more to the inner and integral being. Okay? Now, what is this integral being? Yeah. Superficial man is only aware of the outside world, not the inner. The spiritual or developed man is conscious of the inner as well as the outer subtle world. So, what Switzerland means by inner and integral being. As in the two lower ascents, matter and life, there is a heightening of the force of conscious existence to a new power and a new range of subtle activities. There is a transition from vital mind to reflecting and thinking mind. There is developed a higher power of observation and invention, taking up and connecting data, conscious of process and result, a force of imagination and aesthetic creation. Now that doesn't exist in animal at all, aesthetic creation. Man is capable of art, of music, of sculpture, of painting. Animal can't do that. But very interestingly, there are certain videos showing that an elephant is using its trunk to paint. Whether it's fake or not, I don't know. But it's showing. But the animal is usually not capable of art.
But what, if I may ask, percentage of humanity is able to look inside itself?
Very little. That's what he's telling to us very clearly. He's saying, though not at first fully self-conscious, man is not very only the capacity is there and he can do it. The animal can't do it, but the man can do it. Okay, so can open more and more to his inner and integral being. As in the two lower ascents, there is a heightening of the force of conscious existence to a new power. What's that new power? Intellectuality, capable of reason, and a new range of subtle activities. There is a transition from vital mind to reflecting and thinking mind. There is developed a higher power of observation and invention, a taking up of the connecting data, conscious of process and result, a force of imagination and aesthetic creation, a higher and more plastic sensibility, coordinating and interpreting reason, the values no longer of a reflex or reactive, but a mastering, understanding, self-detaching intelligence. As in the lower ascents, so here there is also a widening of the range of consciousness. Man is able to take in more of the world and more of himself, as well as to give to this knowledge higher and completer figures of conscious experience. So too, there is here also the third constant element of the ascension. Third, mind. Mind takes up the lower grades. Mind takes up the lower grades and gives to their action and reaction intelligent values. It starts seeing everything in mental terms. Man has not only, like the animal, the sense of his body and life, but an intelligent sense and idea of life and a conscious and observant perception of the body. So, the animal is conscious of its body, but man also is conscious of his body. But what's the difference? Man can think of how to cure himself. The animal also cures itself mechanically. It goes and starts eating things which it normally does not. Carnivorous plants also, carnivorous animals, they also go and sometimes start eating plants to cure their own ills. So it is mechanical. But in man it is conscious. He can do that. So man has not only, like the animal, the sense of his body and life, but an intelligent sense and idea of life and a conscious and observant perception of body. He takes up too the mental life of the animal as well as the material and bodily. He takes up to the mental life of the animal as well as the material and bodily. Although he loses something in the process, he gives to what he retains a higher value. What does he lose? He loses the instinct of the animal. But he gains intellectuality and reason, rationality. He has the intelligent sense and idea of his sensations, emotions, volitions, impulses, mental sensations. What was crude stuff?
I have mental associations.
Mental associations. What did I say?
Sensations.
Okay. Mental associations. What was crude stuff of thought and feeling and will, capable only of gross determinations, he turns into the finished work and artistry of these things. The human being has a sense of aesthetics. Okay, so he turns the finished work and artistry of these things. For the animal too thinks, but in an automatic way, based mainly on the mechanical series of memories and mental associations, accepting quickly or slowly the suggestions of nature and only awakened to a more conscious personal action when there is need of close observation and device. It has some first crude stuff of practical reason. We have given many examples of practical reason, but not a formed ideative and reflective faculty. So what Shrivastava means by practical reason we have seen. The bird throwing something on the water, okay, the monkey using a stone to break. These are all practical is there. How to solve the problem they can do. But reflective and ideative capacity they don't have. That is rationality if you want. The awakening consciousness in the animal is the unskilled primitive artisan of mind. In man, it's a skilled craftsman and can become. But this he does not attempt sufficiently, not only the artist, but the master and adept. So, the animal eats food as it wants. But man is not satisfied only with food, eating food. He prepares himself, makes it a aesthetic experience. He garnishes it, does all sorts of things to make it a beautiful experience. Okay. So many other things are also there. Okay. The animal also fulfills the purpose of nature by mating. But in human beings, they take that to an emotional higher level. It is there sometimes in animals also, but everything is subtilized and mentalized. That's what Shrivastava is pointing out. Okay, so not only can become an artist, but master and adept. The animal cannot become an artist, but man can not only become artist, but master and adept. Adept means an expert in anything. So, I read a summary of what he's saying here. So, now, the evolution graduates from graduates to man and intelligence. The universal conscious force is no more sleeping, not somnolent. In man, it becomes awakened consciousness. It is of a lower grade in the animal, physical and vital mind, and of a higher grade in man, reason, logic. Man has reason and logic, the animal doesn't have. Science uncovers the secrets of nature to man. That's what he means by reason and logic. He looks at things and utilizes them for his own good. The animal has no science. Okay, so animal intelligence is practical. Food, shelter, okay, all this we have seen. We have given examples. In man, conscious wakefulness is much wider and many-sided. He invents gadgets, develops music, literature, painting, architecture. These areas are close to the animal. So there is the difference in the evolutionary theory, what I am explaining. The same principle of, I am still reading the summary, the same principle of involved conscious force reaching a breaking pressure point produces mentality, intelligence. Also, ascent and integration continue to be operative. All lower grades are taken up and given mental values. But man loses out on some fronts. The animal can instinctively cure its body. Man cannot. Okay, so animal has got some instinct capacity. Instinct man loses, but he gets more of an intellectual. Now what Sembe is saying is interesting. All the lower grades he takes up and gives mental values. The animal only uses material things and plants, but human beings can turn them to his own benefit. For instance, the monkey will go and eat the mangoes available on a mango tree. But man will think out, he says, if I have one mango tree, why not I put 100 and make an orchard? So he utilizes the plant life for his own benefit. He looks at animals and he also thinks that non-vegetarian is very common because there is this, the higher biological form eats the lower biological form. This is the survival of the fittest, it goes in that way. Now, man can think if one animal is available, let me make more animals available. So he does farming. So this is how man utilizes the lower. He looks at matter also and integrates it into his own life. As I said, rivers he dams, uses the wind for his own. He is utilizing matter and plants and life and animals for his own benefit. He doesn't reject them, he is integrating them. Okay, so the animal is the unskilled primitive element of the mind. Man is a skilled worker and artist. He can become expert and master. That's the difference. But here we have to observe two particularities of this human and at present highest development, which brings us to the heart of the matter. First, this taking up of the lower parts of life reveals itself as a turning downward of the master eye of the secret evolving spirit or of the universal being in the individual from the height to which it has reached on all that now lies below him, a gazing down with a double or twin power of the being's consciousness force. And what is that twin power? Power of will, power of knowledge. So as to understand from this new, different and wider range of consciousness and perception and nature, the lower life and its possibilities, and to raise it up, it also to a higher level, to give it higher values, to bring out of it higher potentialities. And this he does because evidently he does not intend to kill or destroy it. But delight of existence, being his eternal business and harmony of various strains, not a sweet but monotonous melody, the method of his music, very interesting. He wishes to include the lower notes also, and by surcharging them with a deeper and finer significance, get more delight out of them than was possible in the cruder formulations. So, the savage maybe plays the flute, okay, or lyre or whatever, but it's very simple, monotonous melody he is calling it. But man thinks of the orchestra. You are an expert in that. That one high level and a lower level sound making a combination of these. So he is making it richer and more enjoyable. That's what they say. Okay, I read that sentence again. But delight of existence, being his eternal business, and harmony of various strains, the savage doesn't have, he has music perhaps, but not various strains. Higher man has got various strains. Okay. He can invent instruments also of music. So many instruments he has invented. And also orchestras. Okay, so method of the music, he wishes to include the lower notes also, and by surcharging them with a deeper and finer significance, get more delight out of them than was possible in the cruder formulation. Still, in the end, he lays on them as a condition for his continued acceptance their consent to admit the higher values, and until they do consent, he can deal harshly enough with them, even to trampling them underfoot when he is bent on perfection and they are rebellious. So it's very interesting. I'll read this again. Okay, so I'll give another example also. It may be a very common example, but we don't think of it in that way. The animal just eats what is available. Okay, here the lion will go attack a deer and eat what is available, but not man. He wants to make it more pleasant experience. He will take it, add elements, season it, okay, cook it. So he is making something more interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm giving very easy example, but that's exactly what man can do. Okay. Not only with music, but even the most material things. So, get more delight out of them than was possible. Still, in the end, he lays on them as a condition for his continued acceptance their consent to admit the higher values, and until they do consent, he can deal harshly enough with them, even to trampling them underfoot when he is bent on perfection and they are rebellious. This particular thing, he is talking not only of controlling animals and forcing them to do his will,
but himself.
That's what he is pointing out. Psychologically.
Exactly.
I have this habit in me of greed. I'll conquer it, I'll trample it, I'll kill it. So that's what he's saying. When they are rebellious, he is bent on perfection, and because he can see the outer and the inner, both. And that indeed is the more true, inmost aim and meaning of ethics, discipline, and asceticism. To lessen and tame, purify and prepare. Now note the word lessen. Look at the spelling. Lesson. So it's not to make something less. It is to teach.
Teach.
Or learn.
Yes.
To lessen. Okay. And tame, purify and prepare to be fit instruments, the vital and physical and lower mental life, so that they may be transformed into notes of a higher mental and eventually a supramental harmony, but not to mutilate and destroy them. So this is the integration that man is doing, ascent and integration. Okay, so ascent is the first necessity, but an integration is an accompanying intention of the spirit of nature. Okay, I read the summary of what he is saying here. At the human level, two particularities are to be noted. First, he develops the capacity to look down upon the lower grades from his vantage point of mental observation. He looks at matter and he can change it. He looks at plant life, he can also use that for his own benefit. He looks at animals, also can do that. He uses consciousness and power to become master of all he sees below his own level. He deploys his knowledge and will to subjugate the lower externals as well as the internals. psychological as well as externals. Okay. Oops. Okay. He controls rivers, plants. He develops the capacity to look down upon the lower grades from his vantage point of mental observation. He uses consciousness and power to become master of all he sees below his own level. He deploys his knowledge and will to subjugate the lower externals as well as the internals. He controls rivers, plants, animals to improve his own condition. But he also masters his own physical and vital psychological needs, which are often selfish, impure, perverted. He develops ethics, morality. Without rejecting his lower members, he modifies, transforms them. Ascent and integration both are now seen in man's life. This downward eye of knowledge and will, with a view to an all-round heightening, deepening, and subtler, finer, and richer intensification, is the secret spirit's way from the beginning. The plant soul takes, as we may say, a nervous material view of its whole physical existence so as to get out of it all the vital physical intensity possible. For it seems to have some intense excitations of a mute life vibration in it. Perhaps, though that is difficult for us to imagine, more intense relatively to its lower rudimentary scale than the animal mind and body in its higher and more powerful scale could tolerate. The animal being takes a mentalized sense view of its vital and physical existence so as to get out of it all the sense value possible. Much acuter in many respects than man's as mere sensation or sense emotion or satisfaction of vital desire and pleasure. Man, looking downward from the plane of will and intelligence, abandons these lower intensities, but in order to get out of mind and life and sense, a higher intensity in other values, intellectual, aesthetic, moral, spiritual, mentally dynamic or practical, as he terms it. By these higher elements, he enlarges, subtilizes, and elevates his own life values. He does not abandon the animal reactions and enjoyments. Now, interesting. He does not abandon the animal reactions and enjoyments, but more lucidly, finely, and sensitively mentalizes them. This he does even on his normal and his lower levels. But as he develops, he puts his lower being to a severer test, begins to demand from it, on pain of rejection, something like a transformation. That is the mind's way of preparing for a spiritual life still beyond it. So this is what man is doing. He takes up the animal life, brings in reason, rationality, morality, art, music, and then he is now preparing himself for a spiritual life. So,
I think we'll stop there today.
yeah, we'll stop. And in any case, we are going to read the summary next time.
Yes.
So we can stop.
Good. Thank you, Ranga.
Okay.
Namaste all.